Welcome back, everyone. My name is Dylan England. We're here to strip down the old and rebuild the better you, helping redesign your life with clarity, courage, and practical strategies. If you're ready to stop settling and start evolving, you're in the right place. And today, we're going to dig into the second part of 5 out of the 10 habits for optimal self-improvement. Last week, we talked about the first 5 habits: move daily, eliminate phone distractions, getting organized and create a clean space, meal prep and choose nutrition, and plan the week in advance. I want to start with a parable before we get into the second of the 5 habits. So a young apprentice watched a master stonecutter work on a massive piece of granite. The apprentice watched the master strike the stone with his hammer over and over. Strike 1, nothing happens. Strike 20, nothing happens. Strike 50. The apprentice starts to wonder, is all this pointless? Then strike 61 happens. The granite suddenly splits clean in two. The apprentice asks the master, "What did you do that time to get it to split?" The master cutter smiled. He said, "It wasn't the 61st strike that split the stone. It was the combined energy of all 60 before that led to that stone splitting." Habits require patience because the results often come long after the effort begins. The progress isn't linear. It's the compound force that builds invisible pressure until you reach a breakthrough moment. Habits are important because the results aren't from the last effort. They're the invisible moments built with all the consistent effort that is put in before. Like a master stonecutter, consistency is what makes life look easy with intentions. Here's part 2. The mental toolkit for optimal self-improvement requires these habits that focus on mindset, introspective thoughts, and acceptability, adaptability for continuous personal growth. Number 1, lifelong learning. Lifelong learning keeps you sharp, curious, and relevant. As stagnation is the enemy of self-improvement, I constantly work on learning to become the best version of myself because my capacity to grow is directly tied to the capacity to learn new things. And the more I learn, the better I can help other people. The more I help other people, the more I'm rewarded with success stories and surpassing my own historical limitations of what accomplishments were possible in my own life, thus making lifelong learning a core value of mine. And it doesn't have to be formal school, it's active consumption. So I'll frequently go to the library for physical books, constantly listening to podcasts or audiobooks. If you're learning something to learn it just to better adapt, be more educated, more well-rounded, that self-study, doing it because you want to and enjoy to, you're going to get so much more out of it. Unless you need that tangible piece of paper, like a college degree, which holds good value depending what you study, it might not be essential or ideal to spend the thousands and thousands of dollars for a class when you can just get a book from the library, study it, learn it, and then apply those concepts and learn beyond the theory. While studying for another nutrition certification, and eventually I plan on studying for some health integrative certifications that are in my horizon, that'll help boost the virtual coaching program that I have, while also learning leadership soft skills for my role in physical therapy. Once we stop learning intentionally, we fail our minds and fall short of what we are truly capable of, and in turn, allowing biases and ignorance to lead us through the rest of our life. I also travel the country teaching physical therapists, chiropractors, doctors, athletic trainers that need continuing education to keep their license active. So that being said, I have to make sure that I'm on top of my game and being well-rounded on what the research currently exists, as well as what's the practical application of that research. That allows me to show up, be knowledgeable, and present with a high level of quality bit of information, and again, staying relevant. Let's get into number 2. Check in with yourself. Do a self-audit. Taking time to be the CEO of your own life. You can't fix what you don't measure. Checking in with myself allows me to continuously learn about how I'm showing up in different moments through the day, making an effort to take ownership and not be a victim of my own behavior in my life story. If I were to ask you to do the same, I understand that I'm asking you to do something that's uncomfortable. For some, very uncomfortable. And some of us have been addicted to the idea or concepts of drama and constant stress that we cannot fathom anything but what we have subjected ourselves to over so many years. The key to that transition is going to be humility, courage, and self-compassion. Before you say it's not necessary, statistically, over 75% of us are terrible at the ability to self-assess. High chances are the other 25% are doing a good job at convincing ourselves that in the moment we are 100% cognizant of how we're showing up daily. In other words, we are all a work of art and a work in progress as the driver and captain of our own life. But being intentional allows us to self-assess and allows us to audit ourselves. No one is immune from personal biases and just missing certain moments of how we're showing up in the day-to-day. Number 3, let's get clear on priorities. So the more clear we are, the better we can take action in relation to where we want to be. The difference between being busy and being effective is something like knowing your top 3 goals that drive all of your decisions. Getting clearer and defined priorities, allowing us to become better at saying no to the things that might distract us, to statistically protect our time, the one thing we cannot get much more of. And if you've heard the 80-20 principle, often we should be focusing on what is the 20% of things that are going to make the biggest impact, resulting in 80% of the outcomes. But until we stop to take time to create a clear vision of what we want out of our life, what we want our life to look like, we cannot and will not become clear on what is not a priority in our life. Just like flying an airplane from New York, if we don't have a written vision of where we want to go, we end up anywhere and wonder why we got there, landing in frustration or disappointment. You're going to get wherever you are and say, how the heck did I even get here? You wake up one day and you don't even realize where you're at, how you got there, and you're frustrated. Like, this isn't where I want to be. This isn't how I want to live my life, right? Or your life isn't what you expected or what you want it to be. We can take ownership and take action today so that in 10 years from now, we are in fact where we want to be. But even then, if we know where we want to go, let's go back to the airplane for a moment. If we're flying from New York to Los Angeles, now we can begin to fill the gaps of what we need to do to get from here to there. Without a plan, we could be 1 degree off. And 1 degree off doesn't sound too bad until you end up in New Mexico. And again, left disappointed. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with New Mexico. I've never been there, but if your ideal destination was LA, you're probably going to be disappointed. And number 4, silence to think. Creating a dedicated, unstructured time for deep thought, reflection, and problem solving. The audit to give yourself small moments, even if starting with 5 minutes at a time, is something where we can learn where our mind goes and perhaps identifying some deeper thoughts without giving yourself a form of judgment on those deeper internal thoughts. When we have silence without distractions, we can maybe start to acknowledge, start to reveal aha moments with clarity. But I understand that sometimes the day slips away. And when it slips away, we could spend somewhere in that midday, if not, schedule a time towards the end of the day to just reflect on the day. Reflect on what you want to do tomorrow to ensure that you're not missing anything. You're executing on the things you want to do. Perhaps if there was something you can learn from the day or from the previous day, that could be moments of silence to give yourself those times to reflect and possibly shift the direction that you're going in or shift the habits and routine that just isn't working for you. So being brave enough to give yourself a moment with no distractions, no phone, no screen, and perhaps no talking, just silence. The best creative ideas and the deepest solutions only happen when we give our mind the space to wander. The next challenge is making the time to write those thoughts down because they're forgotten about 10 minutes later. This again takes honesty and humility to recognize that we don't remember even half of the things that we tell ourselves we're going to remember, right? So writing it down on a piece of paper is ideal. After those thoughts, if you have some form of epiphany or great ideation, write that down, because when we tell ourselves we're going to remember it later, we're going to forget, and that's human. The moments of silence can be thought of as sitting without an agenda, the no music, the no podcast, sometimes just sitting in a car before work, after work. Lately for me, I don't have that extra little bit of time to sit in my car after work, because when I pull into the driveway, my dog and daughter come rushing out of the house, out of the door, like it's a race to greet me. And that's something that I'm not willing to trade, or I would not trade for anything. And last but not least, be flexible in everything you do. This is the most important of all. The goal is to build a resilient and adaptable system, not a rigid one that breaks at the first obstacle. Stay flexible, because the only way to succeed long term is to be adaptable and commit to never missing 2 days in a row, for example. In time, I've been known to be a B-type personality where I just go with the flow. But I've found that structure in setting high expectations and a high standard, which requires some rigidity, allows for high execution. But nothing is set in stone and planned for imperfection. And when we schedule the buffer time into the schedule to account for unexpected events, unexpected setbacks, planning for unexpected ensures your success. How do you do that? Being productive with your plan and proactive in your day, opposed to reactive, which goes back to habits and the concept of planning out the day, while also writing things down. If you don't complete an urgent task in one day, it becomes an obligation the following day. And this is why writing it down becomes so important. You also get that cognitive association to success and achievement when you write it down, and you get to check it off at the end of the day. The things we talked about today, the habits we talked about today, that surmount up to the 10 optimal habits of self-improvement, is constant education, checking in with yourself and doing a self-audit, getting clear in your priorities, silence to think, and be flexible with everything you do. And let me know what your habits are. What are you willing to take on as a challenge of implementing? If you're willing to take on any of these habits starting through the rest of the week. And until next time, remember that your next level doesn't come from wishing. It comes from daily consistent action. Lean into discomfort and stay relentless, because average is optional, growth is a choice, and the practical edge is where you sharpen that choice. Until next time, stay focused, stay driven, and keep leveling up.